The galaxy had not seen peace for many years. From one end of the Orion Arm to the other, the sound of war echoed through the stars. Dozens of alien civilizations had fallen to a cold, merciless enemy. The Zetherans, a race of machines created in the forgotten past. Their ships were like shadows of steel, moving in silence but destroying everything in their path. The Zetherans did not talk. They did not reason. They existed only to consume and erase. Planet after planet was burned into lifeless dust. The once powerful Allied Worlds Coalition, a group of many alien races, had been broken apart. Every species had tried to fight back, but none had survived for long. The galaxy was losing hope. And in that hopeless silence, a whisper began to spread. It spoke of a race that had not yet entered the war, a young, fierce species that lived on the blue planet called Earth. For decades, humans had watched the war from afar. They had built colonies, stations, and fleets, but they stayed quiet. They listened. They learned. They prepared. Many called them reckless. Others called them unpredictable. But those who had met humans before said one thing with certainty. When humanity decides to fight, they fight like no other. Now that moment had come. Far beyond the edge of Mars, deep in the cold black of space, the Terran Federation Fleet Command stood ready. Around Saturn's moon Titan, massive shipyards floated silently, their mechanical arms moving day and night. Thousands of ships, sleek, silver, and strong, lined the orbital docks. Their hulls reflected the sunlight like mirrors of steel. Inside the central command ship, the TFS Invictus, Admiral Arya Voss stood before a giant viewing window. She was calm, her sharp eyes fixed on the fleet outside. The Invictus itself was a titan of a ship, 15 kilometers long, built with new generation quantum armor and powered by twin singularity drives. Behind her, the bridge was alive with quiet activity. Officers worked at their stations, scanning data, monitoring communication lines, and checking systems. The atmosphere was not nervous, it was focused. Everyone knew what was coming. "Admiral," said a young officer, turning from his console, "fleet readiness reports are complete. All ships stand by for launch orders." Arya gave a small nod. "How many ships are ready?" 2,759, ma'am, the officer replied. "The rest will join us once the hyperspace corridors are clear." Arya turned back to the window. Her reflection merged with the shining stars. "Good. Then the time has come," she said softly. For months, humanity had been silent, but now silence was no longer an option. The Zetherans had entered human-controlled space, destroying 3 border colonies and leaving nothing but debris. That was the final spark. In one voice, the Terran Senate had given its order. Mobilize the fleet. Retake the war zone. Show them what it means to face humanity. Messages and broadcasts flooded the galaxy. The other races of the Allied worlds watched in disbelief. Many of them had begged humanity to stay out of the war, afraid that another race would only fall to the machines. But what they saw now was different. From Earth's orbit, from Mars, from Jupiter's moons, countless ships lifted off. Carriers, destroyers, frigates, dreadnoughts, all painted with the blue and silver insignia of the Terran Federation. The formation was unlike anything seen before. Human fleets did not move like alien ones. They were fast, precise, and perfectly synchronized. Each vessel was guided by both human intuition and artificial intelligence. Every crew member was linked through the neural grid, a system that allowed ships to share data, emotion, and intent in real time. It was not cold coordination. It was living unity. Admiral Voss stood at the center of it all. Her voice carried through the communication network, reaching every ship in the fleet. "This is Admiral Arya Voss, commanding officer of the 1st Terran Fleet," she said firmly. "Our mission is simple. We will enter the Epsilon war zone, engage all Zetherian forces, and reclaim every human and allied world that has fallen. We fight not for conquest, but for survival, for every life lost, for every voice silenced. We are humanity, and we will not fall." 1,000 captains replied at once. Their voices blended into one. For Earth, for the Federation, for humanity. As the countdown began, the bridge of the Invictus glowed with soft blue light. Holographic displays came alive, showing fleet positions and hyperspace coordinates. The massive engines of the flagship began to hum, growing louder until the entire ship seemed to vibrate with energy. Outside, the fleet aligned in perfect formation, long columns stretching across the black of space. Ships locking into place like pieces of a living machine. Coordinates locked, the navigation officer reported. Fleet ready for jump, said another. Arya raised her hand. Activate all drives. Begin hyperspace entry. The stars outside stretched into long lines of light. Then in a flash of blue brilliance, the entire Terran fleet vanished into hyperspace. While the ships traveled through the silent corridors of folded space, Arya walked across the command bridge. Her second-in-command, Captain Ryan Holt, joined her. He was older, with gray at his temples and a calm but firm tone. "You know, Admiral," he said quietly, "the Council didn't expect us to move this fast. Some of them think humanity should wait, gather more allies." Arya smiled faintly. "Allies are important, Ryan. But sometimes you can't wait for someone else to save you. Sometimes you must stand first so others remember how." He nodded, understanding. Humanity had been underestimated for too long. The older races saw them as children of the stars, clever, emotional, and unpredictable. But no one truly understood what drove humans, their will to protect, their hunger to build, their fire to survive. As the fleet sped through hyperspace, that same fire grew brighter in every heart. Hours later, the ships emerged into real space. Before them stretched the Epsilon War Zone, a region filled with the remains of hundreds of destroyed ships. The area was dark and silent, illuminated only by the dim glow of a dying star in the distance. The bridge crew stared at the view in silence. Broken hulls floated everywhere, alien, human, and machine alike. It was a graveyard of war. "Sensor sweep complete," said the operations officer. "No friendly signals detected, but I'm picking up high-energy readings near the star's corona. Possible Zetherian movement." Arya's eyes narrowed. "So they're here." She walked closer to the window. "Bring the fleet into formation. Defensive grid, pattern Delta 9. Prepare for combat readiness. We move in slowly. All ships, follow the Invictus lead," came the transmission through the fleet. One by one, the Terran ships moved forward, their engines glowing like lines of light in the darkness. The silence of the war zone was soon filled with the low hum of human power. As they approached the center, faint shapes began to appear on the scanners, metallic, sharp, and countless in number. The Zetherians were waiting. For the first time in decades, the machine swarm turned to face a new enemy. They did not know fear, but something unusual began to appear in their system reports. Human energy signatures were different, unstable, unpredictable, powerful. The Zetherians adjusted their algorithms, preparing for battle. Back on the Invictus, Arya's voice came calmly through the command network. "All ships hold position. Wait for my signal." The crew was silent. Every heart beat faster. Then she said in a quiet but firm tone, "Let the galaxy witness what humanity can do." The stars outside seemed to darken. Thousands of ships glowed brighter as their weapons charged. The war that would change the fate of the galaxy was about to begin. The storm had arrived. The Epsilon War Zone looked like a field of broken stars. Thousands of wrecked ships drifted silently, their twisted metal bodies reflecting the light of the dying sun. Clouds of dust and debris floated through the void. For years, no living fleet had dared to enter this place. It was called the Machine Graveyard, a region ruled by the Zetherian swarm, the enemy that had destroyed whole civilizations. Now, after decades of fear and defeat, the silence was broken. From hyperspace, the Terran fleet emerged in a storm of blue light. One by one, human ships appeared, dreadnoughts, cruisers, and carriers forming neat, perfect lines across the stars. Their engines burned bright, their hulls gleaming silver against the darkness. It was the largest human armada ever assembled. On the bridge of the TFS Invictus, Admiral Arya Voss watched as the last ships exited hyperspace. Her calm eyes studied the holographic map spreading before her. Every ship's position, every formation, every energy signature appeared as tiny blue dots. The fleet was ready. "Fleet formation Delta 9 locked," reported the tactical officer. "All systems stable," Arya nodded. "Good, maintain low emission levels. Let's not give them reason to strike first." Outside, the fleet glided quietly through the remains of old battles. Broken alien cruisers passed by like ghosts. The silent wrecks were reminders of what had happened to others who had challenged the Zetherians. Captain Ryan Holt, standing beside Arya, looked out the viewing window. "Hard to believe all of them fell here," he said softly. "Hundreds of fleets, thousands of lives. All gone. Arya's expression stayed firm. Then we will make sure their sacrifice means something. The scanner suddenly beeped. A faint energy signal appeared on the tactical map. Contact, the sensor officer called. Multiple energy spikes. Sector 5 Alpha. On the screen, red dots began to bloom. First 10, then 100, then thousands. The Zetherans, Holt said, his voice steady but tense. They're waking up. The machines came out of the darkness like a storm. Sharp black ships of strange design filled the void, moving in perfect mechanical formation. Their engines glowed a sickly red and their weapons charged with unnatural energy. The swarm was enormous, stretching across the war zone like a living wall of metal. Every officer on the Invictus could feel it, the scale of what they were facing. Arya didn't flinch. All ships defensive grid Beta 2. Ready weapons. Keep shields at full power. Orders received, came the replies from across the fleet. The command bridge filled with soft blue light as weapons came online. Cannons rotated, missile pods opened, and railguns extended from the armored hulls of hundreds of ships. The hum of power filled the Invictus. Arya's voice was calm, almost gentle. We are about to meet the Zetherans for the first time. They will expect fear. They will expect retreat. We will give them neither. The first wave of enemy fire came fast. Streams of red plasma crossed the void, hitting human shields and exploding in bright flashes. Shockwaves rippled across the fleet. Smaller ships rocked slightly, but none fell out of line. Shields holding steady, the defense officer shouted. Minimal damage, Arya smiled faintly. Return fire. In a single instant, the void came alive. From every Terran ship, powerful energy beams and kinetic slugs erupted forward. Blue and white light crossed the blackness like 1,000 lightning bolts. Human cannons spoke as one voice of fury. The leading wave of Zetheryan ships was torn apart. The bridge trembled slightly as the Invictus fired its main gun, a massive rail cannon capable of launching a slug at near light speed. The shot struck a Zetheryan cruiser dead center, shattering it into fragments. Direct hit, reported Holt. One enemy wing down, but the machines didn't stop. They kept advancing, cold and mechanical, their movements perfect and merciless. The battle had just begun. The fight spread across thousands of kilometers. Explosions lit up the darkness like new suns. Human fighters, small agile crafts, swarmed around larger ships, dodging enemy fire and launching precision missiles. The neural grid allowed the entire fleet to think together. Human pilots, engineers, and AI co-pilots worked as one, adapting faster than any machine could calculate. In one sector, Captain Lena Drake of the cruiser TFS Resolute shouted over the comms, "Enemy drones incoming, Vector 9-3. Deploy counter swarms." Her ship launched hundreds of micro-drones that formed a defensive sphere, intercepting incoming fire. The drones spun and weaved, moving like a living storm. On another side, the carrier TFS Horizon released its fighter wings. The small ships darted forward like silver arrows, firing blue plasma rounds into the enemy ranks. Each hit was clean and precise. Enemy formations breaking, someone reported. They can't adapt fast enough. Arya watched quietly. The Zetherans had underestimated humanity. The machines had fought predictable races before, species that followed patterns and logic. But humanity was something else. They fought with instinct and emotion. They created chaos, and in that chaos they found victory. Suddenly alarms blared. A new formation appeared on the scanners. Admiral, massive energy surge detected. A Zetheryan supership just entered the field. The holographic map showed it, a huge vessel emerging from the darkness, larger than any seen before. Its surface pulsed with dark red light. Arya frowned. So they bring their command unit. The supership, known from intercepted data as the Zetheryan Prime node, began charging a weapon. A sphere of crimson energy grew at its core. If fired, it could wipe out a whole section of the Terran fleet. "Target locked on the Invictus," cried the weapons officer. The crew held their breath. Then Arya spoke firmly. "All ships focus fire on that weapon. Overload its charge before it completes." Every gun, missile, and rail launcher turned toward the giant ship. Within seconds, the fleet unleashed its fury. The void shook under the combined power of human fire. The red energy sphere flickered, then exploded prematurely. The Prime node's own weapon backfired, tearing half of its structure apart. Hit confirmed. Holt called out. "The Prime node is breaking up." Cheers erupted across the bridge, but Arya raised a hand for silence. "Stay focused. There are still many left. As the Zetherian command ship burned, the rest of the machine swarm began to falter. Their formations broke down. Their coordination weakened. Human ships pushed forward, pressing the advantage. "Bring us closer," Arya ordered. "Keep pressure on their flank." The Invictus moved at the head of the fleet, its engines blazing bright blue. Railguns thundered again and again, tearing through enemy ranks. Smaller ships followed, firing in perfect rhythm. The Zetherian ships tried to retreat, but human precision and speed cut them off. One by one they fell, some shattered by kinetic impacts, others melting under plasma bombardment. In less than an hour, the once feared swarm was collapsing. On board the Invictus, Captain Holt stared at the tactical display. "Admiral," he said slowly, "they're running." "I never thought I'd see machines retreat." Arya didn't answer for a moment. Her eyes were fixed on the fading red dots on the map. "They will retreat, yes," she said softly. "But only for now. They will adapt and they will come again. That's how they survive. And when they do, we will be ready." She turned toward the bridge crew. "Signal the fleet, regroup. Begin rescue and salvage operations for any surviving Allied vessels in the area." "Every life matters." "Yes, Admiral," the communications officer replied. Across the war zone, the light of human ships moved among the wreckage. They picked up distress beacons, recovered black boxes, and rescued what few survivors they could find. For the first time in many years, the war zone was quiet, not because all life had been destroyed, but because humanity had brought silence through victory. From the orbit of the dying star, the fleet looked majestic. Thousands of ships glowed in formation, shining against the red light of the sun. Messages began to flood through subspace. Distant colonies, once fearful, were now filled with hope. Other species who had hidden from the machine sent their congratulations and thanks. But Admiral Arya Voss stood silent, her hands resting behind her back. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "The galaxy will learn that when humanity stands together, no darkness can hold." The Invictus turned slowly, its engines igniting for the next jump. The fleet followed, leaving behind the shattered remains of their enemy. The humans had entered the fire, and they had come out stronger. The battle at the Epsilon war zone was over, but the galaxy still trembled from its echoes. For the first time in centuries, the Zetherian swarm had been defeated. The machines that once erased entire civilizations were forced to retreat before the storm of humanity. But even as the flames of battle cooled, Admiral Arya Voss knew the war was far from over. On the bridge of the TFS Invictus, silence filled the air. Only the hum of power systems and the soft beeps of consoles broke the quiet. The great ship floated near the remains of destroyed Zetherian vessels. Huge pieces of blackened metal drifted across the stars, glowing faintly in the light of the dying sun. "Damage reports?" Arya asked calmly. Captain Ryan Holt, her trusted second-in-command, stepped forward with a tablet. "Minor shield stress on several cruisers. A few fighter wings lost contact, but overall, the fleet stands strong. No major casualties," Arya nodded. Relief showed for a brief second in her eyes. "Good. Send medical and rescue teams to assist recovery units. No one gets left behind." Holt smiled slightly. "You never change, Admiral. Always thinking about the smallest crew first." She looked at him and replied, "Every person in this fleet is a reason we're still here. Machines may have numbers, but we have hearts. That's what makes the difference." Her words were quiet but powerful. Everyone on the bridge heard them, and it filled them with pride. Outside, the fleet moved with slow grace. Drones scanned through the wreckage, collecting fragments of Zetherian technology for study. The Terran engineers wanted to understand how the enemy worked. The machines were advanced, cold, and efficient, but humans had something they didn't: creativity. In one of the lower decks of the Invictus, Lieutenant Mira Chen, a systems engineer, studied a recovered Zetherian data core. It was a dark sphere made of strange metal, pulsing faintly with red light. Her team gathered around as she connected it to the analysis table. "All right," she said softly. "Let's see what secrets you're hiding." The core projected streams of glowing symbols into the air. None of them were understandable at first, but the human AI translation system quickly began decoding. Words started forming, coordinates, codes, and something unexpected: patterns of confusion. "Admiral, you need to see this," Mira reported through comms. "The Zetherian network is struggling to process our battle tactics. Their algorithms couldn't predict our maneuvers. It's like we broke their logic. On the bridge, Arya looked intrigued. Explain. Their systems rely on perfect patterns, Mira continued. Every enemy they fought before used structured strategies. But our neural grid, it's not logical. It adapts in real time. Every human thought, every emotional reaction, it changes the algorithm mid-battle. They can't predict us because we're too human, Holt chuckled. So we confused the galaxy's smartest machines by being unpredictable? Arya allowed herself a small smile. That's our advantage. Machines can learn patterns, but they can't understand courage. Later that day, a transmission came from the Allied Worlds Council. The hologram of a tall, silver-skinned alien appeared before Arya. It was Chancellor R'Lene of the Vorn Collective, one of the oldest surviving species in the galaxy. Admiral Voss, R'Lene began, her tone respectful yet cautious. The Council has witnessed your victory. You have done what none of us could. The Zetherans have retreated from 3 sectors. On behalf of the Allied Worlds, we offer our gratitude and our curiosity. Arya stood straight, her voice calm and steady. We fought for survival, not glory, Chancellor. But if our success helps others, then humanity stands ready to share what we've learned. R'Lene tilted her head. Many still find it difficult to understand your species. You create weapons faster than others build homes. You fight with a fury that frightens even your allies, and yet you protect with the same strength. Perhaps that's what it means to be human. Arya said softly. We are made of both fire and hope. The Chancellor gave a slight nod. The Council requests a full briefing on your neural grid system. It may help our remaining fleets coordinate better. Arya exchanged a glance with Holt. You'll have it. But remember, technology alone isn't what turned the tide. It's the people who use it. Hours later, deep inside the Invictus, the crew gathered in the observation deck. Through the wide glass panels, they could see the wreckage slowly drifting into the void. Some looked at it in silence. Others whispered quietly among themselves. Lieutenant Mira Chen stood beside her friend. Pilot Aaron Vale, one of the fighter squadron leaders. Hard to believe we actually won, Aaron said, his voice filled with awe. I thought I'd never see the day when machines ran from us. Mira smiled faintly. They didn't just run. They couldn't understand us. That's the real victory. Aaron looked thoughtful. You think they'll come back? They always come back, she said softly. But so will we. Meanwhile, on the command deck, Arya watched the same stars. The fleet's AI, named Helios, projected beside her, a calm voice of reason. Admiral, Helios said, our predictive models suggest the Zetherans are regrouping near the Gamma cluster. They will likely retaliate within standard cycles. Arya crossed her arms. Then we move before they do. I want our ships refueled and resupplied. Prepare the Archangel Array for testing. Helios's tone shifted slightly. Admiral, the Archangel Array remains untested. Its energy yield is unstable. I'm aware, she replied. But we need something that can end this war once and for all. If they adapt, we must evolve faster. Holt entered the bridge at that moment, hearing her last words. Arya, the crew needs rest. We've been in the field for days. Maybe take a pause before pushing further. She turned to him with a calm but determined gaze. You know what happens when we pause, Ryan. The machines don't rest. Every second we wait, another colony burns somewhere. He sighed. And every second we push too hard, we risk our people. There's a balance. For a moment their eyes met. 2 leaders bound by duty and loyalty. Finally, Arya nodded. All right. 1 standard cycle of rest. But keep the array project on standby. We'll need it soon. As the fleet began maintenance, the story of their victory spread across the galaxy. In distant colonies, people who had lived in fear for generations cheered as news broadcasts showed images of the Terran fleet standing victorious. Children waved flags, and miners on Mars stopped work to watch the replay of the battle. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy believed the Zetherans could be beaten, but not everyone saw the victory as peace. In the dark edges of the galaxy, within the remains of destroyed machine ships, signals pulsed faintly, whispers of code echoing through the void. The Zetherans were not destroyed. They were learning. They were adapting. Back on the Invictus, Admiral Arya Voss stood once again before the stars. Captain Holt joined her. Thinking about the next move? He asked quietly. Always, she replied. The Zetherans are smart. They'll return with something new. We must be ready before they do. He smiled faintly. You sound almost like them, always planning ahead. Arya laughed softly. Maybe, but there's one thing they'll never understand about us. What's that? Holt asked. She turned to him, her eyes filled with steady light. We don't fight just to win. We fight to protect, to build, to hope. That's why we'll always have the advantage. The fleet drifted onward, preparing for its next mission. In the hangars, engineers tested new drone wings. Scientists studied captured machine parts. AI cores were rebuilt and human crews trained side by side with artificial partners. Everywhere on the ships there was the same feeling, a mix of pride, unity, and readiness. Humanity had proven its strength, but it also knew the road ahead would be harder. The Invictus turned slowly toward the next star system. Its engines glowed with soft blue light. Through the wide glass of the bridge, the stars stretched endlessly, full of danger and promise. Arya Voss looked at them and whispered quietly, "Let them come." Humanity is ready. The fleet moved as one, vanishing into the vast ocean of space. The stars around the Gamma cluster were cold and distant, stretching across space like endless silver threads. Here the Zetherans were regrouping. From the debris of destroyed fleets, the machines had reconstructed massive warships, forging a new command center called the Core Nexus. It was a dark, enormous structure, hundreds of kilometers wide, pulsing with an unnatural blue light. Energy fields shimmered around it like protective curtains, and streams of smaller Zetherian vessels surrounded it, forming a nearly impenetrable ring. From orbit, the Terran fleet could see the Nexus clearly. On the bridge of the TFS Invictus, Admiral Arya Voss studied the holographic map of the Warzone. Her sharp eyes followed the enemy formations, noting their strengths, weaknesses, and patterns. "Core Nexus detected," said the tactical officer. "Shields at full capacity. Enemy fleet strength overwhelming. We estimate 20,000 Zetherian units in this sector alone." Arya's expression remained calm. "Numbers are meaningless if strategy is superior. Bring the fleet into formation Gamma 8. Defensive shields at maximum. Weapons primed. Today we end this threat." Her second-in-command, Captain Ryan Holt, leaned toward her. "Admiral, the Nexus shields are massive. Any direct attack might fail. Are we ready for a risk of this scale?" She nodded, eyes fixed on the distant blue glow. "We've prepared for risk. Our fleet has the advantage they can't calculate: human adaptability. If we strike together precisely and without hesitation, they will fall." Holt exhaled slowly. "Then let's remind them why humanity survives." The Terran ships advanced in perfect formation. The larger dreadnoughts led the way, carrying the heaviest weapons. Behind them, carriers deployed fighter wings, their engines glowing with energy. Smaller frigates and support ships surrounded the core of the fleet, forming a living shield. Every vessel's crew was linked through the neural grid, a network that shared thoughts, calculations, and instinct. The fleet functioned as a single organism, moving with a precision no machine could anticipate. "All ships," Arya's calm voice echoed across the fleet. "We move as one. Engage when I give the order. Protect each other. Trust the grid. Humanity's future depends on this moment." Thousands of crew members repeated her words silently, focusing on their duty. The Invictus led the charge, engines blazing like a silver comet. As they approached the Core Nexus, the Zetherians reacted. The smaller drones and fighter ships swarmed forward. Their weapons glowed red as beams fired across space. The shields of Terran ships flared in response, absorbing and deflecting the first volley. "Shields holding," reported the defense officer. "No significant damage." Arya's lips curved slightly. "Good, let them waste energy on empty strikes. Our moment is coming." The fleet advanced steadily, weaving between debris and enemy fire. Every Terran ship moved like a dancer in space, dodging and countering attacks with fluid precision. Fighter squadrons launched from carriers, performing complex maneuvers and striking at Zetherian drones. Each attack was precise, calculated, yet unpredictable, a combination that the machines could not anticipate. At the center of the fleet, engineers activated the Archangel Array, a massive weapon designed to harness stellar energy. Built for only the most extreme circumstances, it had never been tested in battle. Its twin reactors glowed bright white as the energy channeled toward a single massive beam. "Array charging," said the chief engineer. "Ready in 3, 2, 1. Arya raised her hand. "Hold, not yet. Wait for the signal." The Zetherians, sensing an opportunity, began forming a tighter defense around the Nexus. Their drones moved faster, their shield generators pulsing brighter. The core Nexus itself began glowing more intensely, as if aware of the human threat. Holt leaned toward Arya. They're preparing for maximum defense. If we strike now, our chances of success may drop. She shook her head. If we hesitate, they adapt. Timing is everything. At that moment, a Zetheranian command ship fired a massive beam. Energy arcs stretched across space, striking a Terran destroyer and shaking its hull. Crew members braced themselves. Target acquired, return fire. Arya ordered. Every gun on the fleet opened fire simultaneously. Blue and white beams streaked across the void, striking enemy formations with deadly accuracy. The Zetheranian drones faltered under the concentrated assault, their coordination disrupted by the neural grid's unpredictable movements. In the chaos, Terran fighters darted in, striking weakened points in the enemy fleet. Smaller frigates attacked gaps, launching micromissiles that pierced shields. The combined attack forced the enemy back, opening a path to the core Nexus. Path clear, the tactical officer reported. Nexus vulnerable in 10 cycles, Arya nodded. Now, fire the Archangel array! The beam erupted from the Invictus like a shard of sunlight through darkness. Energy coalesced into a golden lance that stretched across thousands of kilometers, striking the Nexus directly. The core Nexus flared in response, its shields quivering under the immense pressure. Zetheranian ships tried to counter, but human firepower struck in perfect synchronization, preventing them from stabilizing. The golden beam burned brighter and brighter, until a blinding flash filled the void. When the light faded, half of the Nexus had disintegrated. The remaining structure trembled, its energy failing. Impact confirmed, the weapons officer shouted. Nexus core destabilized. Holt looked at Arya wide-eyed. It worked. They can't survive that, she didn't smile. Not yet. Keep pressure on. Finish the job. The fleet surged forward. Zetheranian vessels attempted a retreat, but the Terran ships cut off their path. Every ship, every fighter, every drone moved as one. Even the machine's fastest ships could not outmaneuver the humans. With precise attacks, the Terran fleet dismantled the remaining enemy formations. Zetheranian warships were disabled, their engines failing, leaving them to drift among the stars. Inside the Nexus, the energy field collapsed entirely. The massive structure broke apart like a shattered crystal, its fragments drifting into the void. The Zetheranian central command was gone. Without it, their remaining ships scattered, directionless and powerless. On the bridge of the Invictus, silence fell. Report, Arya said. All major enemy vessels destroyed or retreating, said the tactical officer. Core Nexus destroyed. Fleet integrity intact. Minimal Terran losses. Holt let out a deep breath. Admiral, we did it. The machines? They're finished. Arya remained calm, though a hint of pride touched her expression. Finished for now. The galaxy may see us as the victors, but vigilance is never over. The Zetheranians will return in some form. Today we have given humanity the upper hand. She turned to the fleet on comms. All ships regroup. Conduct rescue operations and collect remaining survivors. Survey the area for valuable intelligence. Humanity stands not only for victory but for life. Messages spread across subspace. Distress signals from nearby colonies were answered immediately. Human teams rescued survivors from destroyed ships, providing food, water, and medical attention. Every life mattered. Every being was worth protecting. Far beyond the Warzone, the galaxy watched. Allied civilizations sent fleets to meet the Terran forces, marveling at their victory. Reports of the battle spread across distant planets. The humans had done the impossible. They had destroyed the most feared machine army in history with precision, courage, and unity. Yet Arya's thoughts were already on the next step. Prepare the fleet for redeployment, she ordered. We cannot linger here. The Zetheranians may be weakened, but they are not gone. We move now to secure sectors previously lost. Holt smiled faintly. You never rest, do you? Arya shook her head. Rest is for those who survive. Preparation is for those who thrive. Humanity does both. As the Terran fleet departed the Epsilon war zone, leaving the core Nexus fragments floating in the void, the stars stretched endlessly before them. They were no longer just a fleet. They were a symbol of hope, courage, and the unstoppable spirit of humanity. The galaxy had seen the Terran fleet in action, and the message was clear. Humanity would not be underestimated again. But even as they celebrated their success, Deep signals pulsed faintly from the distant edges of the galaxy. Somewhere the Zetherans stirred, learning, adapting, and preparing for the next encounter. Admiral Arya Voss looked out at the stars, her expression determined. "Let them come," she whispered. "We will be ready." The Invictus and its fleet ignited engines for the next jump, leaving behind the ruins of the core Nexus. In the darkness of space, a new dawn for humanity was rising, one built on courage, unity, and unbreakable resolve. The Epsilon Warzone was quiet. Where once the darkness had been alive with the hum of Zetherian engines and the blaze of battle, now there was only silence. Stars reflected on the hulls of human ships, shining silver and blue. A symbol of order after chaos. For centuries, this part of space had been a graveyard of civilizations, filled with the wreckage of alien fleets and machine armies. Now it belonged to humanity. On the bridge of the TFS Invictus, Admiral Arya Voss stood watching the calm of the stars. Her eyes were steady, but her mind was busy. The fleet had won a monumental victory, yet she knew the fight for the galaxy was not over. "Status report," she commanded. Captain Ryan Holt looked at the screens. "Fleet is intact. Recovery teams are assisting survivors from the war zone. Minimal losses compared to previous battles. All systems functional." Arya nodded. "Good. Begin mapping safe lanes for Allied fleets. Coordinate with the Allied Worlds Council. Every recovered colony, every surviving civilization must know humanity is here to help, not just to fight." Holt gave a small smile. "It's amazing, isn't it? After all the fear, the doubt. They'll see us now." Arya turned from the window, her gaze sharp. "They will see more than ships, Ryan. They will see the heart of humanity, our courage, our unity, and our will to protect. That is what will make them remember us." Across the war zone, Terran engineers and recovery teams moved efficiently. Small drones scanned debris fields, identifying ships that could be salvaged. Medical units transported survivors from derelict vessels, attending to injuries and providing nourishment. Children, families, and leaders of other species were rescued, and every effort was made to restore hope. On board one of the support vessels, Lieutenant Mira Chen monitored the collected Zetherian technology. The data cores, once symbols of enemy power, now held secrets humanity could study. Every recovered fragment could help prevent future wars, improve fleet coordination, and safeguard countless worlds. "Admiral," Mira said over the comm link, "the data we collected, it's incredible. We can learn their patterns, understand their logic, and develop systems that make our fleet stronger than ever. But it's not just technology, the neural grid and our adaptive strategies. It's what really gives us the advantage. We think differently. We act creatively. They can't predict us." Arya's voice came through clearly. "Good work, Lieutenant. Humanity's strength has always been in the mind and the heart, not just in our weapons. Keep studying, but remember, the greatest victories come from unity, not just firepower." Far above, the Allied Worlds Council observed the aftermath through holographic communications. Leaders of dozens of species sent messages of congratulations. Their voices, once hesitant and doubtful, were now filled with admiration. Chancellor Raline of the Vorn Collective addressed the Invictus fleet. "Admiral Voss, the courage and skill of humanity have done what generations of our fleets could not. You have turned the tide of war. The galaxy owes you thanks beyond measure." Arya responded, steady and composed. "We did not act for praise, Chancellor. We acted because it was necessary, because every life, every world matters. Humanity will always fight to protect what is right, no matter the odds." The Chancellor paused for a moment, then nodded. "And it is precisely that spirit, Admiral, which will guide the galaxy forward. Humanity has proven itself to be more than a young race. You are a symbol of hope." Back on the Invictus, the fleet began consolidating its forces. Fighter wings returned to carriers. Drones were debriefed, and every ship underwent maintenance. The human crews worked tirelessly, yet there was no rush or panic. They moved with efficiency and pride. Captain Holt approached Admiral Voss. "Do you ever wonder," he asked quietly, "if the galaxy will always need heroes like us?" Arya smiled faintly, her gaze on the distant stars. "Heroes are not born. They are made from necessity, courage, and the will to protect. And as long as there is darkness, there will always be the chance for humanity to rise." Holt nodded. "Then we'll keep rising." In the outer sections of the war zone, scouts discovered remnants of Zytherian vessels drifting aimlessly. These ships, once fearsome, were now powerless without the core Nexus. The humans salvaged what they could, removing weapons, AI cores, and energy modules. One ship, small and unassuming, contained dozens of surviving Zytherian drones. Engineers carefully captured them, intending to study how the enemy adapted. Every piece of technology brought humans closer to understanding the machines and to preventing future threats. Lieutenant Chen examined a drone core. "These are learning units," she explained. "If we can understand them, we can anticipate the next generation of threats. But the real advantage is us, humans, thinking and reacting together. Machines can compute numbers, but they cannot hope. They cannot innovate under pressure. They cannot care for one another." Admiral Voss listened to the report. "Exactly. That is what we fight with, and that is why we will always survive." The Terran fleet did not linger long. They had accomplished their mission, but the galaxy was wide and threats were many. Orders were given to jump to nearby sectors, to assist colonies, and to establish defensive positions. The Zytherians had been weakened but not eliminated entirely. As the fleet moved through space, children on distant colonies looked up at the skies and saw human ships passing overhead. For many, it was the first time they had felt safe in generations. For the first time, fear was replaced with hope. News of the victory spread across subspace communications faster than any fire or missile ever could. Planets once terrified of Zytherians now began rebuilding, inspired by the courage of the humans who had saved them. On the bridge of the Invictus, Admiral Voss stood in silence for a moment. Behind her, the fleet glimmered like a river of silver flowing through the darkness. Holt approached her. "The galaxy will never forget today." Arya's eyes scanned the stars, thoughtful. "No, but they must also remember why humanity fights. It is not for glory or fear. It is for life, for hope, for each other." The bridge crew watched quietly. They understood the weight of those words. Humanity had achieved what others thought impossible, not through superior firepower alone, but through courage, unity, and determination. In the aftermath of battle, Arya held a brief ceremony aboard the Invictus. Crew members were recognized for bravery, ingenuity, and leadership. But the Admiral reminded them of one thing. Their victory was not the work of a few. It was the work of all. Every pilot, engineer, medic, and soldier had contributed. "The galaxy has witnessed humanity at its finest," Arya said to her assembled crew. "But remember, this is only the beginning. We have the chance to build a future where darkness cannot dominate. We will protect, we will defend, and we will rise whenever we are called." The crew cheered softly, pride shining in their eyes. For them, this was more than victory. It was a promise. Days later, the fleet returned to the Terran Federation's command stations. Across Titan, Mars, and Earth orbit, celebrations were quiet but meaningful. Flags waved on every planet. People sang songs of courage, and children played imagining the battles of heroes. Messages came from other civilizations. Some had been skeptical, some fearful, but now all acknowledged humanity as a force for good, a beacon of hope in a dark galaxy. Admiral Voss received a message from Chancellor R'Lin. "Humanity's valor has rewritten galactic history. We will ensure your people are remembered for generations." Arya smiled softly. "We do not fight to be remembered. We fight because it is right. Let that be our legacy." As the sun set over Earth, Mars, and Titan, the Terran fleet rested. Ships floated in orbit, engines humming softly. Engineers repaired systems. Pilots shared stories of courage, and scientists studied the remnants of the enemy. In one quiet room aboard the Invictus, Arya looked out at the stars. She knew the galaxy would always be vast and full of challenges, but she also knew one undeniable truth. Humanity had proven itself. They had faced an enemy thought unbeatable and emerged victorious. They had shown that courage, unity, and hope were more powerful than fear, numbers, or logic. Somewhere, far beyond the stars, the Zytherians stirred, learning from their defeat. But humanity would be ready, and when the machines returned, the galaxy would witness again the strength and spirit of a young, determined species that refused to be ignored. Arya whispered softly, almost to herself, "This is only the dawn, but it is a dawn of humanity, and the galaxy will never be the same." The fleet ignited its engines, leaving the remnants of the war zone behind. Stars stretched ahead, bright and infinite, and humanity moved forward, stronger, wiser, and united. The universe had seen humanity's courage, and now it would remember it forever.